please state your name and what you do here at HAFA.
Okay, my name is Mychoua Vang, and I'm the administrative assistant and youth coordinator here at HAFA.
What got you interested in this position and organization?
I started as an intern here at HAFA while I was in college, and after I finished, I decided to come here because I really liked working with the youth here, and I really see a lot of potential of the organization.
What did you do in college? What was your major?
I majored in sociology, and at first I wanted to do more of like a research based, and that's what I did with a lot of my undergrad. But I think when I got out of college and started working here, I realized that I work better with the youth and planning events for them.
Can you tell me a little bit about the programs here at HAFA?
We have a housing program. We also have a job placement program as well as a domestic violence hotline. We also have an elderly care program as well as a senior day care center for them. And we also have cultural preservation youth groups for dance and playing. And we also have like a youth leadership and youth leadership development meetings we have every month. And we also have translation and interpretation that we provide for the community.
Okay, sounds great. The Elders program, is there a off-site housing, or do they live like at home with their families and then it's just kind of a day?
They usually just live at home with their family, or a few of them live by themselves. And so our elderly care coordinator, he usually whenever they have events or they need to they need to be transported to the hospital or doctor's appointments, he goes and he does that for them.
Okay. And the like domestic violence hotline, is it staffed here? Or like for when they call?
Yeah, it's our staff. She has her phone with her 24/7.
Oh, okay.
So whenever anybody calls, she answers it, and she helps out the best she can.
So the cultural preservation, is that mainly with the youth, or is it all the community involved in it?
Yeah, the interesting thing is that it's mainly with the youth, and so for the dance, it's more it's kind of like it's an interesting topic, but because it's kind of like the dance isn't it's they call it traditional, but a lot of the dance moves are just based off of the instructor, and a lot of the songs are borrowed from other cultures, but then used in but then the melodies are from other cultures, but then it's written in Hmong, so then they adapt it, and so the girls are learning kind of like to adapt to different songs. Thai, I think they've had some Bollywood music in the past, and Lao and Hmong as well. So they have that. And then for the Keng, the teacher teaches them like the how to, because it's kind of confusing because for the Keng, it's kind of like you have to learn how to speak a certain way, because when you blow into the instrument, and it's like a song, you're singing a song and you're saying a song, so when it comes out it's just music but you're really speaking into it. So that teaches a lot about like the language, and also teaches about like the culture, and as well as like some part of like shamanism as well.
Really?
Yeah.
And you said the girls, is it mostly girls or are there boys as well?
For dance, mostly just girls. And then nakeng, some girls do play once in a while, but I think this year's only been boys.
Oh, so the instrument is usually boys, and then the dancing is girls.
Yeah.
Is that culturally traditional, or is it just how things turn out?
I guess it's just how things turned out.
Recently?
Yeah.
How long have you lived in this neighborhood?
Let's see here. When we first came to Milwaukee, I believe I was in first grade, so maybe about I want to say like 14, 15 years now. And then we just recently moved up to north, near Makwan, like maybe 4 years ago. So I've lived here for a while. Yeah.
So you weren't born here? You were.
No, I was born. Well, I was born in Iowa. Yeah.
Where in Iowa?
It was Des Moines, I think.
I was
Yeah.
So were your parents born here as well? Or are you the first generation?
I'm the first generation. My parents were born in Laos, and so I think they moved to the refugee camps after they fled. And so I think my mom had me like 2, 3 months after she came to the U.S.
Oh, wow.
So if she would have waited, I would have been born in the camps. Yeah.
Has she ever told you what it was like to be pregnant in the camps?
Um, she didn't talk to me so much about that, but she did talk about like she did tell us stories of like how she had to flee when she was running away from the Viet Cong, I believe. And she talked about like how she had to hide a lot, and what it was like to, because both of her parents died during the war, and they didn't fight or anything, but it's just um, basically traveling from Laos, the mountains in Laos, to go to Thailand. It was very dangerous, and so my grandpa, he died from rice poisoning, and my grandma, I'm not sure how she died, but I'm not too sure how she died, but my mom came like an orphan, and so she talked a lot about how, like, her life as an orphan, and how it was like to not have a mother and father, and how she struggled with not having any food for a lot of day for a long period of time. So then she would always have to go out to the trees and like cut up the bark and then like pound it, and then like there's like a certain powder that comes out, and then she uses that to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of stories of like how it was like to adapt after her parents died.
How old was she when her parents died?
I think she was like maybe 6 or 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm. And you said her father had died from rice poisoning.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like a bacteria, or was it like an intentional poisoning of
I
rice?
My mom said it was an intentional poisoning because she said that during that time they were poisoning the rice.
Mm.
So that's what they said. That's what my mom said. Yeah.
And they being the Viet Cong?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Um, are there any like stories of your child, like you remember hearing about from your parents about life in was it Laos? Where they came from?
Yeah, that they came from. Um, let's see here.
It doesn't have to be past, right? Any sort of
Uh-huh.
stories of life.
Um, I think my mom just said it was just a lot more free. It was just a lot more freedom. Just being able to you didn't really have to work for anybody. You were really working for yourself and your family. You had your own farm. You could walk back and forth wherever you wanted to. You can go fishing wherever you wanted to. Um, let's see here. And then I think life was really difficult in the refugee camps, but when they were living on without before the war, it was easier. The camps was hard because to come to the U.S., you had to take a test, you had to pass it, and then you could come to the U.S. To the States. So the camps for her, she said it was really difficult. She didn't really give me much stories, or my dad even didn't give me too many stories about the camps. Yeah, I just remember a couple years ago they went back to the camps, but it's no longer there. But they just stood there because they were like, "This is where we lived for a good part of our life." Yeah.
In the camps.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, and how your mom described the time before the camps was being more free?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think organizations like HAFA help people in that transition?
I think they
I mean, from like
mm-hmm.
From how it was to this culture.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. I think we do provide translation interpretation because that's the main thing. A lot of them don't speak English, and even the last wave of refugees that came in the I think early or mid 2000, they're still kind of struggling like learning English, and so we kind of like we're here to kind of help people do small things like call their cable company, or call their talk about the phone bill, take a look at their mail if they don't understand it or they don't have anybody who can help them look at it. That's what we kind of do. Let's see here, and definitely the home buyers program. That's something for them to utilize. Just because if they become homeowners, they don't have no longer have to rent. They have their own property, and that kind of helps them become more self sufficient in a way. The elderly care program, I would think, is for the elders who've come here and they no longer have anybody to kind of help them through the daily life, like going to the doctors or maybe even going food shopping. And so our elder care coordinator is there to kind of help them throughout the week, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Um, do you do you personally, and then do you feel like HAFA as an organization thinks that it's important for Hmong people to have their own space as in housing versus like renting from
Hmm.
Americans or from people of different cultures that they do you feel like they're it's important for them to one feel it but also to have this do you worry that there's that culturally they'll be taken advantage of in
Hmm.
just because of renting because of just there being different customs and
Hmm.
there being different understandings of how things work.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how to answer that. But I think that the housing, have being able to own their own houses is a way for them to kind of be more independent.
Mm.
And I guess the Hmong, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like the Hmong do kind of pride themselves in like being able to do things on their own as well.
Mm.
And so I think owning a home is like the first step to being able to take control of their life, that sort of a thing.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the other parts.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just thinking about I don't know if there is any
Mhm.
in Laos like if there was an established rental like if people they probably, I imagine they built their own homes
Mhm.
and then they worked their land
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So just the idea of a rental like it being temporary
Mm.
for you know and being somebody being able to tell you to leave your home.
Oh, I see.
So
Yeah.
that's what I was
I get
wondering.
what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's important like culturally for Hmong just kind of feel like because they are kind of rootless
Mhm.
in a way now
Yeah.
for them to have space like
Yeah.
physical space.
Yeah, I think so. Even if you look throughout history as well, like when the Hmong came from China, well, they were mainly, most of them were in China, and then they fled, and then they, that's when they kind of like dispersed to like Laos and Thailand and
Mm-hmm.
Burma and such like that. So I think that with them being this kind of like not entirely nomadic, but them like you were saying like rootless and everything. I think that after the war, it's a lot of people going through trauma, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that coming here, it's kind of like a way for them to just say, this is we're settling here. And even if they stay here, some of them will probably just move down south, like what majority of people, some people are doing, where they can farm again. So like I have a few friends whose parents they own houses here, but then they move down south. And so even if they own the house, they'll rent it out and then move down south where they can own their own land
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like work.
Where down south do they tend to?
I have a couple of friends who live in Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
and some, yeah, mostly Arkansas, but I think it was Ozon, I
Okay.
believe. Yeah.
Are they? Do you find? I hate being like it's all like everybody does everything the same, and um, but have you found that they create Hmong communities like so like when I know Minneapolis
Mm-hmm.
and Milwaukee and Sacramento and Fresno were big Hmong
Mm-hmm.
communities as they were placed.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really a choice. Do you find that they're choosing to move to the same towns that they like again like so if they're all moving down south like, are they
Yeah.
all choosing to kind of be close
Mm-hmm.
together and I know
Yeah.
it's
I get what
more
you're saying.
complicated than
Yeah.
that
Um, this is just based on my observation. It's more of like you follow your family. So wherever your family goes,
but
you
okay.
go. So for us, we were in Des Moines for a while, and then we moved to California,
Mm.
Fresno, and then a lot of our relatives started moving to Milwaukee, and that's when we decided to move too.
Mm.
So because our culture is so much so based, it's so close knit and so family oriented.
Mm.
Wherever the family goes, you go. It's almost rare that um, someone would just leave and go to like I don't know, maybe go to New York, even
Mm.
though there's like no family there.
Right.
But that's like the newer generation though. The newer generation, they'll probably do something like that. But someone who's more traditional, they wouldn't do something like that, I guess,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah it does.
And so I think I'm not too sure, but I think Sacramento, Minneapolis, and Milwaukee, they're pretty big now, just because there are organizations that are based in there, And that's not to say that like Appleton and Green Bay and Stevens Point don't have that either, or Lacrosse doesn't have that either, because they do have organizations there too. But with Milwaukee so concentrated with the like I think the fourth highest, the fourth city with the most populated Hmong people in the state and in the country, I think. Um, it could be because there are so many families here too. It could be that. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
What do you think is the why? So you grew up here. You were
Hmm.
born in the United States. Um, what do you think it is about some in your generation and generations coming after you where there is a move towards? Do you think it's increasing? Do you think that these younger generations are becoming less traditional? And if it is, how?
Um, yeah, I think so because you're kind of like you're no longer just Hmong, you're American and Hmong,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's kind of like you have to learn how to live two worlds, and you have to please your parents, and you also have to please whatever American standards you have, like school wise and everything. And so a lot of people are even saying that the Hmong language will probably be gone by, I don't know, in the next 10, 15 years if this continues, if there's no like there's nobody there to kind of help preserve it. um let's see. And I think that the newer generation, because the traditional ways, it's more family based, but the other way is to be more independent, to just not selfish, but be independent and figure things out for yourself, and follow your own path and not worry so much about your family. And so I think a lot of people are starting to venture away from their family, and family is there, but it's not like your entire life is gonna be your entire life decisions is gonna be geared towards your family. I have one or two friends who are more traditional than me, and um, they finished their masters and everything, but they would still go back to their family and not pursue them in their career because their family needs them, and so they're willing to put their life goals and life career on hold just so that they can help their family. So that's something that's um, more that's not selfish, and it's more like geared towards their family.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if it was me, I would be like, oh, I understand. I'll probably help with money, but I'm gonna pursue my career goals. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna jump back to you comment about language.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what significance do you feel like the Hmong language has had in binding a community? And I don't know if you've traveled out of the country. And we talked to somebody yesterday who has visited a small rural town in France,
Mm-hmm.
and the Hmong population is quite secluded from the French population.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very rural, and they farm and stuff. But as an American, she was able to go because she spoke Hmong, and they were very. I mean, she was born in Laos, but
Mm-hmm.
um, so I mean, it seems that like internationally, there's no borders with
Mm-hmm.
language. So, um, what do you think for like the significance of languages?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think that it helps people stay connected even though they're so far apart. And I think language is the only one of the few common things that the entire Hmong population has in common. I think being able to meet someone who speaks the same language as with you is like some sort of like a relief if you're in a strange place, or like if you come here if you come here for the first time and someone speaks Hmong, it's like, oh, great, I can talk to you. I don't feel like a stranger or that I don't belong here. That sort of thing, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And your friends who are more traditional, they, but they still pursued higher education.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, is was as far as you know, was education a priority for their family as much as it was for them to pursue?
Yeah, I think it was too. There's a lot of for a lot more traditional families, there's a lot of expectations, a lot of high expectations, and I mean, it kind of like goes to the whole Asian stereotype almost, but it's kind of like certain certain families and certain parents, you don't want their kids to do really well, but at the same time, they also want them to know different. want them to do household chores and be able to help serve their family as well. So it's like a tug of war almost, but it takes a few people to kind of be able to balance both worlds, and also like in a way it could be a third world as well, like for themselves. And so I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with, people who are born here, and even parents themselves are kind of like struggling with, who is this, like who are my kids anymore, like I want my kids to be this way, because they're still under that whole traditional mindset. um, and I think that a lot of the conversations I have with my parents, we always argue about this because it's kind of like they're traditional. My parents are traditional, but not to the point where um, it's not extremely traditional,
Mm-hmm.
but they do have expectations of me as well. And so do we do say to her once in a while that, like, this is, we're no longer living in Laos, or Thailand. Like, this is a different country. Not that we have different rights, but it's just like, we have to kind of assimilate in a way and kind of like find um, ways to balance this life, because you have expectations, in the American world, and you have expectations in the Hmong world,
Mm-hmm.
and you have expectations for yourself. So how are you gonna balance all three worlds? And so I think it's gonna be difficult for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are struggling with it. So yeah.
How does the struggling manifest itself in
um
that you've with your peers?
um I think it's like you have to do well with parents. It's kind of like you have to do well in school. You have to be able to um for women, I mean, do well in school, be able to learn how to cook and clean, be able to speak Hmong, be able to do the traditional things like that. And then I think for the American side, it's more just it's like being able to I don't know how to say it. It's kind of like um, it's not school too much school related, but it's also like um, being able to go to proms, or like being able to do social activities, to make you seem not so strange in a way. I guess. I'm sorry. What was the question? Yeah.
Oh, the you had said that the struggles of being kind of in a third world. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
straddling these two and being like in a sphere unto yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You had said that you foresaw like some people really struggling with that. So how, like, as wondering is, how does that struggle manifest itself? Like
Mm-hmm.
I know that non-Hmong people who struggle with identity, like they will go to drugs,
Mm-hmm.
or like they look for ways to ease sort of that pain.
Yeah.
So what have you? I mean, in this sort of center, what have you seen
Uh-huh.
being things that people struggle with?
Yeah, definitely. The identity struggle. That's definitely something. I think when I was interning here, some of the youth have come to me and said that, a lot of people call them Chinese, but they're not Chinese, and you know, I guess, for that, they feel very not in a way kind of threatened by it, and kind of um angry at that, just because, not a lot of people know about Hmong people. And so when you're referred to as just Chinese, even though you know that there's different ethnic groups in Asia, it can get very difficult, where it's kind of like, I don't want to be Asian, I don't want to be Hmong, maybe I want to be white, or not white, but like maybe American, so that I'm no longer have to like have people tell me that I'm this and that when I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's definitely one of the things that I've seen that deals with like identity ish. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like growing up in your friends, like, what is there anything that you wish people either would ask you or just automatically understand more about, like, your situation, a situation of where your parents came from, or just
Mm-hmm.
to realize your identity a little bit more?
I think it's just being more open-minded and not be so stuck on this whole mainstream idea of that everybody is Chinese and nobody is Japanese or Filipino or Hmong or Lao or Thai,
Mm-hmm.
because there's tons of different ethnic groups. And I think it also has to do with like learning the histories, of the people who've come here, and not just for Asian, people who are Ecuadorian, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Honduran, anything like that, even Irish or German,
Mm-hmm.
that is not just based on one big lump of like
Right.
a race,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? I think that when people do realize that, then they can be a little bit more open-minded, you know.
Right. Do you find that I don't know, this might be a weird question, but I know that there are like people from Puerto Rico or Ecuador or Guatemala, they often get lumped into being Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody's from Mexico.
Yeah.
Um, do you see, having grown up here and grown up in Iowa, there's a very large Mexican population. You might have left a little before you
I
saw
don't remember much about Iowa.
that. Do you see any sort of natural, not necessarily allies, but like natural certain things that other groups have that as a Hmong you can relate to them having gone through, or
Mm-hmm.
vice versa, or like that you see similarities in experience for other minority
Mm-hmm.
groups?
Yeah, definitely. I think having our own communities in a way, as well as let's see here, even the economic struggles and the educational struggles as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, knowing that um, knowing that a lot of Hmong or Southeast Asians don't really score very high in education standards. They're not very good, and I also think that being someone from the underrepresented group, we kind of have an idea of like what it's like if someone was to say some sort of racial slur at you. Even though even if you don't even know about it, there's just the, the tone of the voice in a situation can be like that. I think something like that. Yeah.
Um, unless you have anything else you thought that you want to add or anything like that, I was gonna kind of switch gears. If
No.
that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
I was just curious about if you could tell us a little bit about some of the murals here at Hoffa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the mural in the back room, that was actually created by one of the youth coordinators who was working here a couple years ago.
The one with the faces, or
Not the one with the
dragon?
faces, but the one way in the back.
Oh, in the
Yeah,
back
way
room?
in the back
Okay.
room with the soldiers and the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
That mural, that was done by the youth coordinator, and he had some of the kids come and kind of help clear out the entire back room, and then they painted that mural to kind of, because that room was supposed to be for the youth, and so yeah, I think it was painted and drawn by the youth, so it was very youth oriented. Um, let's see here, and then the other murals with the dragon and the that's outside of that room
Mm-hmm.
by the where with the bull, or I think it was the water buffalo, actually, the water buffalo and
Mm-hmm.
everything. That was created a couple years ago when I was interning here as well. One of the Safe and Sound organizers came in and decided that wanted to collaborate with us and some of her groups to kind of like have this sort of integration of like people just coming together and just painting and leaving something artful behind of their time together. And so she drew the entire thing, and she drew the entire thing, and then she had the kids come in and just kind of like colored.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it turned out pretty great. The other mural on the other side of the wall with the faces, the organizer found someone was a who was attending some classes at True School, and she had him come in for a day to do the three faces, and that was just all freehand. He didn't think about it; he just came in and just did it, but he just didn't come back to finish it. Yeah, but that's what some of the murals are.
Do you? Is there like a story behind the one in the youth room or anything that you know?
I am not too sure about that, but I know that the one with the dragons and the water buffalo. I remember some of the kids were telling me that it was supposed to kind of represent like sort of like the myths and the whole the myths of like the dragons living in the water, and I think the water buffalo is just life back in Thailand and Laos. And then there's a bunch of houses there too, like little huts, and the mountains in the background. But it was kind of like, so it's in a way it's like a portrayal of like myths and just life back in the day. Yeah.
A cycle portrayal.
Uh huh. Yeah.
Is that what that quilt is as well?
Yeah. I think the quilts they started doing that to help sell,
Mm-hmm.
and make some sort of living, and then
Who's that?
just the I believe most majority of it was like women
Mm-hmm.
who were doing it. Some of them when they first came to the U.S., like they didn't really have any income, and so people were interested in like the Hmong history, and so they started doing the storytelling cloths, so, the pandao, yeah, and so that kind of tells the story of like it's like a certain type of stitching. I remember my coworker said it was like a reverse stitch or something like that. And so what they would do is they would draw it first, and then they would just go in and just do like little stitches one at a time to fill in the colors and like do the faces and everything. A lot of them have different depictions like about life and back in Laos, and then some of them actually have like an actual storyline of like one part of the cloth would be like life life was like before the war. One would be like and then the next part would be like what happened during the war, and then the aftermath of the war. So yeah, it's been most majority of them are really pretty and really beautiful handwork. Yeah.
Do you know when they started doing that?
I am not too sure. Yeah.
They're really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
How about the mural outside?
The mural outside. I believe that was also when the youth coordinator who was working here did that as well. They cleaned up the entire. I think our director got permission to create that courtyard back there, and then the kids worked with Safe and Sound, I believe, and they painted that mural of like what kind of neighborhood they would want it to be, and so they painted that really great mural back there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Um, do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how your parents met at all?
I think my parents met while they're in the same village, I believe, and they kept in touch even after they were separated. So when they got to the camps, they came at different times, but they stayed with each other for a while during the camps. But then she came to the States first, and then he came like maybe two years afterwards. So that's how they kind of met. Like, yeah.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 6 sisters. Oh no, 5 sisters and 2 brothers.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm the oldest. The youngest one is like 10 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So while you had so many siblings and stuff and you went to college, was it difficult?
At the time, no, because the majority of my siblings were like in either high school or middle school. But I think the most difficult part was when I was in middle school, because they were still in grade school. And during that time, my parents were, one was working first shift, the other one was working second shift. And so we never had a time where like both were working the same shift, so that someone was always home, or like we're able to go to the conferences. So it was difficult in middle school, elementary and middle school, because that's when my mom had expectations of me, where you would come home, you would clean, cook for everybody, and then you would do your homework. So it was family first, and then work afterwards. Yeah.
So your parents, did you ever have like, because I don't know how to put this. One of the Hmong kids that there's like a store down the street.
Mm-hmm.
He said that his parents were never really around because they were always working. Was that the same with you, or?
Not always. Just because my parents didn't really trust us being home alone all the time, and if they did leave us alone, it was only because my grandma was there too. So we had always had adult supervision, and we were never allowed to go outside. Yeah, it wasn't until a little later, but we were always home, and we always had to do our homework. Yeah.
So, did you do any extracurricular activities, or were your parents strict like that
My
too?
parents were strict. They wouldn't let us. Just because I went to South Milwaukee, so that
Mm-hmm.
was like, um, I don't know. I think maybe like 20 minutes away, 20 30 minutes away. And my parents just didn't want to pick me up there and then come back home. And so they wouldn't allow us to do extracurricular activities. It wasn't until my youngest sister, she was the only one who got to do extracurricular activities because she was the younger one and everybody else was older. So, so yeah.
Um, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, let's go to the next question. So you said that Hmong culture and American culture, like they're two different identities. Do you see both of them kind of intertwining as time goes on through the generations? Like it would be like American and Hmong culture would be who they are, you
Hmm.
know, instead of like, oh, I'm Hmong on one side, I'm American on the
Hmm.
other.
Yeah, I think a few people who've embraced both worlds will say they're Hmong American. Some people would just say they're Hmong. I think Hmong American, both of them intertwining in the future, perhaps. Um, I think that it's probably possible to do that because I think even now it's sort of happening too, where a lot of I guess being American would be like going to church for certain Hmong people, and so a lot of them are doing that, even though uh like when my parents when we were Catholics, my mom, even though we went to church, my mom would still have these little they call it a hooplies, which is like a soul calling ceremony, but it's just really small. It's not nothing big, but it's just something small where like if somebody fell down or something, my mom would call their soul to wake to stand up. So in a way they're still kind of like um they're integrating both of them together in a way. And I think that even when if something's just as little as that is enough to kind of like start something to kind of integrate both worlds together. Yeah.
So, since you said that you guys are Christian, being shaman would be like it would be part of the culture, the Hmong culture. So like
Mhm.
since your mom said that she would do these little ceremonies and stuff, it would be like these that's how she was taught, or like would it be like that's a different aspect than actually being in the Hmong culture?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I haven't really researched too much about that. So I'm not very knowledgeable about that, but how I see it is that how I view it is that, shaman, there is no word for our what our religion is, but the closest known word is shaman, shamanism. But I also feel like shamanism in our culture has a lot of like animal worshiping, so animalism, ancestral worship, that sort of thing. And so we have a lot of those aspects in our culture. Um, let's see here. Um, I think yeah, yeah.
Okay. Which part of the Hmong culture like do you like the most, or like you relate to the most?
I really love the language. I think it's very poetic. It's every time someone talks, it's like a song because there's like tones markers to every word, and even when they say that I don't know if anybody talked to you guys about gutsia, which is like poetry. It's like a singing poetry. It's really beautiful. I don't really understand all of it because the way they word it, but it's really beautiful. And I think that even though all of us have become, we have our own we become like dispersed throughout the entire world, but a lot of us still have the same language. And so I think that people who left Thailand and Laos, they're traumatized, but like the only thing that's really keeping us together is like the language, and even like the history of like what happened.
Um, so last time we were here, the man that we interviewed said that Hmong people don't have friends; they have family.
Uh-huh.
Would you relate to that at all? Like, what do you think about that quote?
um, See, because he's an older generation.
Yeah.
Because I would like to say we have both. Um, because I think that even like just from my perspective is that family is great, but also realizing that just because they're your family doesn't always entirely mean that they will support you all the way, I guess, in a way. And let's see. I'm rethinking that because I'm thinking about my friends and how like all of us are kind of like a family too. So, because when I guess maybe it might depend on certain people too, but um, with my set of friends, like we do a lot of things together. We have our own lives, but we do certain things together. We have potlucks and we do go to each other's families events once in a while. And we've also come to the point where like we almost view other family their family as our family too, so I guess he was right. Yeah.
Um, so I think that's it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And just to
Where is that? And since we're right here,
okay.
the idea of support, how does that change? Do you feel like, how do your parents see support, and how do you see to support somebody?
You mean like financially or
Mm,
just emotionally?
She when she asked you that question, you said, "Well, you think it'd be family, or we have friends. Like we support each other."
Mm-hmm.
So, or wait, there you don't feel like they support you necessarily. But I just like,
Oh.
and that has to do with
Oh, okay.
expectations.
Yeah.
Like,
Because I definitely feel like because I'm a little bit more like geared towards like independent than relying on my parents. Um, I guess the idea that my parents still have the expectation that I stay home until, even though I'm almost 30, they don't want me to leave the house. They said the only time I can leave the house is when I'm married. And my parents, we got into a fight because I told them I wanted to move out and I was gonna move out by December, and they were like, no, that's not gonna happen. So it's kind of like they, in that way, it's kind of like they're not really supporting my independence. I understand why they would say that they don't want me to leave, because of cultural expectations, and of course, they're afraid of what would happen if I was to move by myself. I understand that part, but I think the fact that they don't support my adult decisions, is what doesn't is what I feel like they're not supporting me of. They didn't support my career. They didn't support. I mean, have certain things like that, but I think because I'm at this age where I'm 28 and they still don't really. I can't really have a, a an adult conversation with them because to them I'll always be a teenager until I get married, in a way. So that way it's kind of like difficult. So yeah.
That's a lot how the Arabic culture is too.
Oh yeah.
I'm Arab, so
Uh-huh.
that my parents tell me not to move out until I get married or
Yeah.
stuff like that. And would okay, so about a couple months ago, I started thinking about it, and then I was like, would I even let my kids move out or like do what they want? So would you? Like,
I think after they're 18, perhaps. But definitely if they're like 28 or almost 30. Yeah.
You ask me a question. And just you say your parents talk a lot of the history to you,
Mm-hmm.
and do you think this kind of the history that can influence you? I mean, is good or not for you when you grow up?
Like the history that they
Yeah.
tell me about, right?
Yes.
I think it's good. I think a lot of people who are in like two different identities or who are struggling with their identities, I think when they learn a bit of history, they kind of have an idea of like where they're from, or like where they're from as an individual or like the family, and also like the history of why they're even here. So like if someone was to, for me, if someone was to say, like you should go back to your country, I would probably have a better idea that, they're being naive and ignorant. And at least for me, I wouldn't feel bad about it, or I wouldn't feel hurt about it, because I have an understanding of the history of like why I'm here, and why I'm here, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And just you also talk about your parents and what's difference you think you and your parents, because your parents is born in law and you born in America. I
Mm-hmm.
think the culture is a little bit different, but also your parents, they told you something that can influence you. So I want to know the difference between your parents and you.
Yeah, my parents are definitely more like traditional. So they're traditional in the sense that they expect the girls to cook and clean, and they don't tell the guys to do anything. um, and they will do certain things for the boys. So the boys have more privileges than the girls do in my family. And that's not something I agree with. I think that it shouldn't be so gender. There shouldn't be any gender roles. It should be more like, we should all be working together. If I can't take out the trash, then maybe someone else can take out the trash. If I can't do this, then someone else should do it. Or we should all learn the same skills because we all need to learn it in order to be responsible if we were to ever move out or if we were ever to live with other people. Um, I think uh, they are having because they never went. My mom went to high school, but I think she only went for like maybe 2 years. And during that time, she was in Fresno, and she went to school with a lot of Hmong people, and so maybe to her that wasn't really too much of a struggle, perhaps. But um, I think that I have become more I had more privileges than my parents, and so I don't really, even though I can empathize with what they go through, I don't think I can ever fully understand like what it was like for them when they first came to the U.S. So I think in a way that's kind of what influenced them to put so many strict rules on us, and for why they think a certain way, and they don't. They're the type of people that don't tell you like they don't tell you that they love you. They don't tell you that they're mad at you. They're just they're just quiet, And so the silence is the thing that's scary. um, and yeah, I don't. Yeah, my mom used to tell me stories of like how because when she first came to the U.S., she had me, and then when she was in high school, she had my other sister, and then she was pregnant, and so I think she used to tell me stories of like how it was like to not know English very well and having to look at the dictionary and then having to watch three kids as well. So she definitely talked about how it was like to be a single, well, not a single mother, but like doing that while my dad was working. And so she said it was a struggle. So I don't think I would ever know how that's like. Yeah.
And the last time we introduced other guy, they said their children don't have a lot of Hmong friends, but they have a lot of American person.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and because he live in a house, and almost his neighbor is American. So does this happen in your life?
I think for a while, I went to a South Milwaukee high school, so it was like an all-white school, and I was the second. There was only like two Hmong girls in our grade, and it was just me and another girl, and I wasn't really friends with her either, so I had a lot of white friends as well. Um, and then I think it wasn't until I got to college that I started having more Hmong friends, um, only because my sister introduced me to them, and um, I have so now I have a variety of I have a lot of friends who are of different ethnic backgrounds. But the people who I hang out more are like Hmong. Just because we talk about what our parents expect from us. We share about stories. We share those stories together and everything. And I think for me, I've been able to relate to them, and they can relate to me, and us just talking about the issues we have at home and that sort of a thing. It's been a really great friendship in that way. Not to say that you can't have that with anybody else, um, but it's really great when they know exactly how you feel like because they feel the same way too. Yeah.
Okay. And I think the last question is just you say there are also have some Hmong person come from China, and does the Hmong in the Hmong culture, do you have some special festival? I
Um,
mean, just like the Spring Festival or something like that.
yeah, I don't think we do. I think the biggest one is just the New Year, and that's supposed to be the end of the year for the harvest. It's supposed to be for the harvest season, to celebrate it and have like a week or two off. But I don't think we do have that. The only other things that we do have, it's not festivals or anything, but it's just more like for religious reasons. Like my parents are now shaman again, so it's a lot of like it's a lot of soul calling ceremonies, that sort of thing. So when my dad got his surgery, they did one where they sacrificed a goat. Oh no, wait, that one was afterwards. But the other one's like they sacrificed I think it was like a pig or a cow. I think it was a pig, and then they sacrificed that, and it was more like it was like a blessing ceremony for him before he would go, and it was kind of like a prayer as well before he underwent surgery, and then we had another one after he got surgery to thank our ancestors for watching over him, and then I think the one where we sacrificed the goat was I think it was afterwards when something was another ancestral thing. Yeah, I wasn't too sure, but that's mostly what we have. I think yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
I have a couple more.
Mhm.
So before you spoke about being American, what does it mean to you to be American?
Um, I don't think I know anymore. Um, because I think for me, I've struggled so much with my identity when going to an all white school. I wanted to be white. I didn't want to be Asian. I didn't want to be Hmong. I hated it. I was embarrassed, because my mom, she would come there and she would dress a certain way because, and then to this day my mom still dresses like she's from the 80s. So but it's like, it's like something where it's like um like I said, I don't know anymore. Cause I think that even the American culture is changing as well. And the faces of what American is no longer just white. Or it's no longer just white. It's all different types of colors and shades. So being American, I'm not too sure anymore. Yeah.
Okay. How do you think Western media affects that though?
I think it definitely likes to I yeah, I'm not a big fan of Western media. I think that the media has this way of like manipulating or perpetuating stereotypes and manipulating people into thinking that, only certain people are this way, you know, um and so I think that they're not doing a really great job, and I don't think they've ever been doing a good job at, helping um give voice to people are not who are underrepresented, I guess, in a way. That's why sometimes you have to go to like independent sources in order to know about what's going on, or if you want to see a different face. Because the sad thing is that, if you want to see a different face, different look at different issues and such, you have to go to those like if you want to know about like Hmong issues, you have to go to a Hmong source. You can't go to Western, or you can't go to the mainstream media's source, you know. And I think that sort of thing kind of reflects like the media, how the media is, and um, I think it's not a really good ally. Yeah.
So, from the media and everything like having to do with like America and living here, have you ever been discriminated against?
Um, I think the only time I remember when it was very public was when we went to Mount Olympus, and it was just me and my brothers and sisters. We were kind of looking for a place to sit because Mount Olympus, if you guys have ever been there, is like really popular. You can't sit anywhere, so it was like one of those hot days too. So we were walking, and this woman, she had a cane, and she had her two sons with her. One of her sons was in a wheelchair, and the other one was pushing him, and she was behind us, and there were people in front of us too, so we couldn't just like run and walk really quickly. And so like we were walking, and she goes, why are these people walking so slow? And she's like, maybe they're not from this country. She's like, maybe they speak English or speak Chinese. And then she was saying a lot of really mean things to us, and we kept turning back saying, like, you need to shut up, you need to leave us alone, you know. And she didn't. She just kept doing it over and over again. And she's like, I don't. She would say things like, I don't care if I beat you with my cane. I'm not afraid of going to jail, And the entire time that was going on, everybody was just watching and just listening, and that was it, And I think that was the only time that I felt like I was super angry, like to think that she would say that sort of thing. But um, after the incident happened, we thought about it. We're like, what? She's just extremely ignorant because she was making fun of this kid, anyways, and maybe she's just a terrible person, So I think that was one of the few things. Definitely in high school, definitely elementary, middle school, and high school. It was difficult just because you know let's see, my mom was very, she dressed me a certain way, and so a lot of the kids would make fun of me, and it's not too much discrimination, but it's just kind of like you feel like an outsider. And I remember my mom, in elementary school, like my mom took out my earrings and put in like a string instead because she didn't have money for earrings yet. So I had strings in my ear, and like the kids were making fun of me because they're like, "Or don't you have money for our earrings?" So it was just like a string. So I think, like I said, not too much discrimination, but I think those kind of things kind of make you angry at not just who you are, but kind of like at the people that are making fun of you for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom dressed me weird too. I
Yeah.
was like turtleneck and jeans up to like here. Yeah, I was like an outcast. But so from all of these experiences, what do you think of the land of the free?
Um, I don't think it's the land of the free at all. I think with people, a lot of people who, just for the Hmong, I think that coming from living in the mountains to a city like to city life, it's difficult to adapt. And the fact that if you want to go fishing, you have to have a license. If you want to cross the street, you need to follow the crosswalk. If you want to buy food, if you want food, you can't just go out there and shoot something. You have to have a license. You have to go to a certain area. And I understand, like certain these rules are in place because of we're in the city, we're not in the rural areas. Um, but I think that someone who's from the rural mountains and coming here, it's gonna be difficult to adapt. And I think that with all these other sources that are like affecting the way we look at ourselves, as well as like the media, even our neighbors, even the schools, that sort of thing, it affects how you are. And the idea that it's the land of the free, it's the land of the free to an extent. I don't think that you have freedom of religion, you have the right to bear arms, that sort of thing. But there's still ignorance. There's still a lot of negativity about not just about people, and I think that land of the free only applies to aspects of like certain lifestyles, but not. It doesn't really include like refugee life. It doesn't include information about you know opening the minds of putting the minds of other people, that sort of thing. And I think it keeps people trapped. It keeps people trapped because of the inability for people's inability to be open-minded about things and not being aware of certain things as well. And so, if you're gonna have people running around being ignorant and being naive about certain cultures or certain ways of life, then it's not necessarily the land of the free if the people who come here are always feeling trapped or feeling like they're pinned up against other people, that sort of thing.
So you said that you have a lot of younger brothers and sisters and stuff. How do you think they view the Hmong culture? Or like, do they like engage in it at all?
Not necessarily, but they don't really engage in a lot of the culture. But they do have Hmong friends, and I'm not sure if that really means they're engaging the Hmong culture. But my brothers play flag football with their other friends, um, and so they speak the same language. They're still speaking Hmong and everything. If there's like a party or anything like that, or like a ceremony party or anything, my brothers are there to help. You know, fill the role as like cutting meat up and everything. Let's see here. So I think only one of my sisters is kind of stays away from the whole Hmong culture thing, but I think everybody else kind of has embraced it in a way. Yeah.
So how old was your mom when she had you?
I think she was like 14 or 16, one of those.
You said that your parents went back to shaman.
Uh-huh.
Are you still Christian?
I don't have a religion.
Oh, okay. All right. That's it. Sorry, I have
Okay.
like a lot of questions.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Thank you so
it
much.
was really
Yep.
nice meeting
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much for
Talking to you.